Good afternoon, learners. I welcome you to this course, EDU748, Introduction to Guidance and Counseling. Introduction to Guidance and Counseling. My name is Dr. Adegu, the course facilitator for EDU748, Introduction to Guidance and Counseling. Introduction to Guidance and Counseling is a compulsory course for all teachers in training. As a learner who is interested in becoming a teacher, it is important that you are introduced to what guidance and counseling is all about. Because as a teacher in training, by the time you get to the field, you are not just a teacher, but also a counselor in a certain capacity. So it is important that you understand the basics of guidance and counseling. I'll be sharing my screen with you soon. Yeah, the topic we're looking at today is the nature and concept of guidance and counseling. That is what we'll be looking at in the course Introduction to Guidance and Counseling. And it is expected that by the time you finish listening to this video, you should be able to achieve some learning objectives. These learning objectives are, after you have carefully studied this session, you should be able to define guidance, you should be able to define counseling, say the aims and objectives of counseling, mention the goals of counseling, and then differentiate between guidance and counseling. In most cases, people marry the two together or assume that one is another. Guidance is different from counseling, and in the course of this study, I will be putting you through to what guidance is and what counseling is, the differences between these two. So let's go to the concept proper. What is guidance? Guidance is the process of helping an individual to be a better person, understanding of himself and his world. So generally, what guidance does is it helps the person in understanding himself and his world and his environment as a whole. The American Personal and Guidance Association in 1967 defined guidance as an organized effort of a school to help the individual child to develop his maximum potential. Also, IPAIA 1983 defines guidance as a generic label, an umbrella term that covers all the means whereby an instructor identifies and responds to the needs of pupils or students, no matter the nature of the need and no matter its sources, thereby helping the child to develop to his maximum potential. That is what guidance is. Basically, guidance is a school on an academic activity. In fact, guidance is the basic core function of a school setting. Let's now go to counseling. Counseling is a one-on-one interaction between a client and a professional counselor who assists the individual in resolving conflicting situations the client may be undergoing and directed him towards a goal which leads to his maximum development and growth. Understand that in counseling, it is one-on-one interaction, unlike guidance, where we are talking to students that as a whole, is one-on-one. And also understand that in counseling, we have the word professional, a professional counselor. Also, Stone 1976 defined counseling as a learning process in which individuals learn about themselves, their interpersonal relationship and behavior that influences their personal development. Dustin and George 1973 defines counseling as a learning process designed to increase adaptive behavior and to decrease maladaptive behavior. If you look at the definition of Dustin and John, we find that there is behavior modification in counseling. Now, what are the aims and objectives of counseling in education? What are the aims and objectives of counseling in education? Because as a teacher in training, you are dealing with education. And I've told you this course is Introduction to Guidance and Counseling. So what are the aims and objectives of counseling in an educational setting? One, to give the student information on matter that is important to his or her sources. Information that are important to the sources of that student, academic sources of that student, career sources of that student. That is what guidance and counseling does in an educational setting. To get information about the student which will be helpful in solving his or her problem, When you get information, you are able, when you have information about a student, you're able to solve that student's problem. To establish a feeling of mutual understanding between the student and the teacher, mutual understanding through the help of guidance and counseling. There is a mutual understanding of the student and the teacher. As a teacher, you know your role. As a student understands his or her role. You don't infringe on the rights of the students, as a teacher, and that will help in creating a mutual understanding of relationship between the teacher and the learner, and this will foster academic achievement. To help the student work out a plan for solving his difficulties, challenges, as learners and students encounter different problems or difficulties in the course of their learning. The aim and objective of counseling in an educational setting is to help that learner to be able to create plan in solving this difficulty, to help the student know him or herself better, his interest, ability, aptitude, and opportunity is important. When the student understands his or herself better, he or she is able to pick the right career in future. To encourage and develop special abilities and right attitudes in students. Special ability, each child has a talent or an ability, and it is a function of a school counselor or school guidance to help the student develop these special abilities and right attitudes. What is the goal of counseling in general? What is the goal of counseling? Like I said, the counseling is an helping situation, it's a helping relationship that involves a professional counselor and a client who has one challenge or the other. So therefore, what is the goal of counseling? It says first, to assist counselee overcome their immediate problem and also to equip them to meet future problem. If a client comes to you as a counselor, you are to help that client to overcome that immediate problem and make sure they are equipped so that when they encounter other problems in future, they are able to resolve it. To understand the behavior, motivations, and feelings of the counselor. That is another goal. As a counselor, one of the goals of the counselor is to understand the behavior, motivations, and feeling of your client to help the counselor become self-actualizing person. That's one of the goals. Self-confidence, the dream, a positive to help you to self-actualize. Also to help the counselor and self-realization. That is one of the goals of counseling, and also to help the counselor become a fully functional person. That is the art of counseling, fully functional, making a counselor or your client to be fully functional in the appropriate manner. Differences between guidance and counseling. When I introduce this course, you will remember that I said in most cases people mix guidance and counseling together. The guidance and counseling, they feel that they are the same, that these two words mean the same thing. They are related, but they are not the same. So now we're going to be looking at the differences between guidance and counseling. There are two different words with two different meanings. First, it says it's the body of psychotherapy, while guidance is the art and way of psychotherapy. Now, guidance is just the surface value, the surface view of what a counseling program is. While counseling is the inner view, the inner content of counseling program. Secondly, it is mainly the total school program. I've told us when we're talking about guidance generally is a school program. It's usually embedded in an educational setting, choosing careers, teaching right subject combination, managing students' behavior, giving student guidance on what learning abilities are, what study habits are, is basically a school program. But in counseling goes beyond educational and academic program. It is beyond that. It deals with our psychosocial problems, more deeper and is more intense. Yeah. It can be done orally in group or via media, TV, radio, email, social media, etc. While counseling is usually done face to face and individually, it's usually face to face and it's highly confidential, and that's why it's usually face to face. Counseling guidance is informative. It gives information, provides all necessary information in making, a student or a person to be better informed about himself and the environment. Why counseling is therapeutic? It is curative in nature. It's a treatment. Counseling is therapeutic. It is a treatment, and this is where theories of counseling come to play. So guidance is informal. It can be done anywhere, but counseling is a formal encounter. It is planned. It is organized. So that is counseling. It could be public. Guidance could be public. Counseling is usually private and highly confidential. If you remember, I said, that counseling is face to face, and this is because it is highly confidential. It can be done by anybody, teacher, parent, pastors, etc. That is guidance. That is where the mistake comes from. When some people ignorantly say, who is the counselor? Who cannot advise? You see, guidance, what people give is guidance and not counseling. In counseling can only be done by professionally trained counselor. Why can it be done by professionally trained counselor? It's because professionally trained counselors are equipped with all counseling theories or counseling tools that will help them in able to perform their duties effectively, to give out all the therapy or psycho treatments, psychological treatments to their clients. It is preventive. Guidance is preventive. Why counseling is curative? The essence of guidance is to prevent the fall or a wrongdoing on the part of the learner. Why in counseling? Counseling is curative. When there is a problem, when the problem has been diagnosed, to solve that problem, then we need counseling. That's why we say it's curative. Let's look at our medical line, for example. You can prevent malaria by using, mosquito nets, by flitting your house, locking the windows, make sure that mosquito does not come in. That way you are preventing it. But by the time you have malaria or you come down with malaria, then you need a medical doctor. You need the drug. This is what counseling is to guidance. Guidance prevents, undesirable things from happening. Why in counseling? When those things come into play, for example, a person is depressed, a person is confused, at that point, that person needs counseling, which is a treatment. That's why we say it is curative. Guidance is mostly initiated by the counselor. In school setting, one of the duties of the school guidance and counselor or a teacher is to organize a career week, career days, group training or study habits, behavior, required behavior, telling them what desirable and undesirable behaviors are usually is. And in guidance, is usually done in group, in large numbers. But here in counseling, is mostly initiated by client, because it is individual. When a client realizes that I have this problem, I have this challenge, then he goes ahead to meet a counselor for help. Just like when we fall sick, we can no longer treat ourselves. We go and see a medical doctor to prescribe what drug we use to cure this illness. The same thing happens when a client realize that he or she has psychological issues or psychological problems that cannot be resolved on his or her own, then he or she initiates a contact with the counselor in helping him or her resolve that issue. Less emotive and structured is highly emotive and less structured. Guidance is less emotive and structured. Guidance is highly emotive and well structured. Why did we say it's highly emotive? The counselor is able to put the client, you are empathic, you feel the situation, the challenge, you feel one-on-one that client is going to. And so therefore you provide your help based on what feeling the client is having, or how do I put what feeling the client is having, or the kind of characteristics the client is displaying at that point in time. We can see, basically we can say guidance is the surface, while counseling is the in-depth by these differences we have looked at today. Now, when we started this lecture, I told you that there are some learning objectives we expect you to achieve at the end of the lecture. First, at the end of this interactive session, first, define guidance. You should be able to define guidance. Second, you should be able to define counseling. Thirdly, you should be able to state the aims and objectives of counseling, mention the goals of counseling, and then differentiate between guidance and counseling. These two words are related. but they are quite different. So I expect that after you have carefully listened to this video or this interactive session, you should be able to achieve the following. When you write down your answers in your notebook, on your journal paper, if you can now go back to look at it. If you did not get it rightly, you can still watch this video over and over again until you achieve these 5 learning objectives. We have come to the end of this lecture, but before we finish, we are now in summary. In this lecture, we have told us, we have defined what guidance is. And I have said in this interactive session, guidance is the process of helping an individual to have a better understanding of himself and his environment. That is what guidance does. It helps an individual in understanding himself better and his environment. Why counseling is one-on-one interaction between the client and his professional in solving problems or conflicts that the client has. If you look at the two, one is talking of understanding yourself and your environment, while the other one is talking of a treatment. When you're confronted with a treatment, you need a professional to help you out. So that's guidance and then counseling. And counseling for us. We have talked about the aims and objective of counseling. It says first in education, it says to give the student information on matter that is important to their success. That's one of the things, give them information on matter that is important to their success. It helps them to understand themselves and be useful to themselves. Those are some of the aims and objectives we have listed in the course of this interactive session. Now, what are the goals of counseling? We have said one of the goals of counseling is to make a counselor a self-actualizing person, to be self-realizational, and also to become a fully functional person. That is the goal of counseling as a whole. We have also looked at the differences between counseling, guidance, and counseling. And we have said that guidance, is just the body of psychotherapy, while counseling is the art of psychotherapy. We have also said that guidance is usually done in group, but counseling is usually individual, one-on-one, face-to-face, individually. And I've told us that in guidance, it can be done in public, but counseling is usually in private. And this is because it is highly confidential. Guidance serves as a preventing tool. Why? Counseling is curative. When the problem is in place, then counseling comes to play, whereby helping that client or that counseling to overcome the difficulty or resolve issues that are conflicting with its sources. That is those are some of the differences between guidance and counseling. It is important, like I said, for a teacher in training to have this basic knowledge. Thank you for listening and hope to see you at another time. Thank you and God bless.